Hi, I'm Bea from Make Do Menders and I tutor craft workshops. I'm going to show you how to crochet with beads. I'm going to be crocheting a rope with a 3-bead pattern in a simple helix. I'm going to start threading the beads in a sequence onto a fine crochet thread. These are 4mm pony beads, and the thread is a number 5 crochet pearl thread. I follow the same pattern, picking up the colours in the same sequence, so that the first colour actually becomes the last on the rope. The number of beads is totally dependent on how long you want the rope to be. I found that placing the beads and the yarn in a plastic bag with them threaded out at the bottom ensures that the beads and yarn don't get tangled up together. Setting up the crochet in the normal way with a slip knot onto the hook, and in this case, as the yarn is a fine yarn, I'm using a very fine 1.75 hook. This is a bead rope pattern with 6 bead sequence. So I'm going to take the first 6 beads and push them up the yarn. Taking the first bead, I'm going to make my first chain. And I would suggest doing it relatively loosely, like that. Bringing the second bead up, make a chain again loosely. Finally, third bead of that sequence, chain, and the final 3 with the yellow. Keeping these chains loose, and the green, and finally the cream. And that's the entire sequence for the first round set. And you see the chains run along the backs of the beads. This next part of the process is probably going to be the most difficult for all new bead crocheters. And don't feel disheartened if you have to keep undoing it and restarting again. You're going to start the first round proper. You've got your sequence set, so your first colour is the yellow. You're going to put the hook underneath the bead and flip it with your right forefinger, if you're right-handed, over to the right-hand side. You're then going to bring up the next yellow bead on your thread, and pushing that also to the right, slip stitch the bead on. Into the next bead, which is a green bead, push it over to the right, place the yarn over the top of it to hold it in place, bring up the next bead, and slip stitch that into place. At this stage, it all begins to look quite confusing. There's the cream bead, hook in, push to the right, lay the yarn over to hold it in place, bring the bead up from below, and slip stitch it on. So I've now completed a few more rows for you to see, and the pattern is beginning to appear. It will take several rows before you see the clear helix appearing. But of course there are many more complex patterns that you can make with much more complex beading sequences like this. And here are 2 that I've finished and joined together to make bracelets. A little recommendation is to thread an elastic cord through the center of the rope to keep the elasticity. And that's how to bead crochet.